Juniors, welcome to our third week of our future planning presentation. This is Mr. Ornberg. I hope everybody is doing well. And we're going to run through this PowerPoint presentation. And as always, if you have any questions about any of the material or any questions about anything in terms of future planning, please do not hesitate to contact your guidance counselor. So this is week 3, session 3 of our 4-week presentation. Today I'm going to talk about the impact on admissions that the coronavirus has had. We'll discuss standardized testing, pass-fail grading, and virtual visits. And then next week, we will wrap up with responsibilities and next steps and what the timeline looks like for juniors as we enter the home stretch. Just a reminder about who your guidance counselor is. The alphabetical breakdown is listed here. So let's start with the impact on admissions that the coronavirus has had. And I think it's important that we realize that we are all in this together and we are all going to learn together about how to proceed through the admissions cycle for the fall of 2020. Some of the terms that we all need to become accustomed to are "it depends," "time will tell," and "we'll see." I think there are a tremendous amount of unknowns out there, and we have to identify the things that we can control right now. And some of the things that we can control are asking teachers for recommendation letters, filling out the counselor recommendation form, doing online research towards colleges and universities, thinking about what your standardized testing map will look like through the summer and into the fall. We are constantly getting updates from colleges and universities as they trek through this unknown as well, and they are looking to refine what their admission cycle requirements and recommendations will look like. We will try to pass these things along to you as the information becomes readily available. And I think the overarching theme for the next 6 to 9 months for everybody will be awareness, adjustment, acclimation, and acceptance. I think we need to be aware of the world around us and how everyone is adjusting. We need to adjust our approach a little bit this year. Some things will be the same, like the common application, and other things will be different, like trying to be able to visit a school in the spring. We have to acclimate to what these changes are going to be, and we need to have a certain level of acceptance that at the end of the day, a year from now, when you're putting a deposit down at a 2 or a 4-year school, that you got through the process and you adjusted accordingly. In terms of standardized testing, one of the websites I strongly encourage folks to visit is fairtest.org. I think before the coronavirus, there were nearly 1,000 schools that were test optional. In the 8 weeks since we've been out of school, that number has gone up significantly, with a lot of schools looking at test optional for the fall or test optional for the next 3 years. So to stay updated with that list as schools do decide, I would encourage you to visit fairtest.org. SAT from College Board has announced what their plan is from August until December. The dates are listed here. The new date they've added is September 26th. Medfield traditionally hosts the October SAT sitting, and the registration for these 5 dates opens up the week of May 26th. So it's a great time now to start thinking about when you may want to take that SAT, especially if you were part of the March, May, or June registrations that got canceled. From the ACT side of things, as of today, which is May 4th, they are planning on offering the June 13th ACT with the deadline of this Friday, May 8th, to register. The next ACT that's being offered after that will be on July 18th. Again, we have not received any updates that these have been canceled. So I encourage folks, if you are an SAT test taker, or you haven't taken it, or you think that you would do well on the ACT, to register for these dates. And if you are looking to the fall, in July, you can start registering for the September, October, and December sittings. Medfield has traditionally hosted the February sitting. Hopefully, many of you were able to take the ACT last February to have it on your record. Virtual visits. This is a part of embracing new realities. I had the opportunity today to take a virtual tour of UMass Amherst. Obviously, it does not replicate being on campus and seeing the campus alive as a living and breathing organism. But at the same time, I found out a lot of information about UMass, statistics. They showed some of the main facilities. It's as close as you can come right now in the world that we are living in to see what a school is about. And there are over 600 schools that are available right now on uvisit.com. And I would encourage folks in the time that you have this spring to take a few virtual tours just to see what the campus looks like, hear about the statistics, and hear from the college reps that do a very nice job explaining what the strengths are of each school. In terms of grading, this is a lot of math here, but at the end of the day, I think it's important that students, specifically juniors, understand how the pass-fail grading formula will work. I've tried to spell it out here. We've talked to Mrs. Mendoza a couple of times about what the final grade is going to look like. And basically, terms 1 and 2 are given 32.5% weight in the final average. The modified term 3 that we had is only worth 30% of your final average. And if you pass term 4, you'll get an additional 5 points. So I tried to break this down in a formulaic way and then use an example at the bottom about what your grades would look like if you had a term 1 grade of 77, term 2 of 84, term 3 of 75, and if you passed term 4. So that math is available. As always, I encourage folks to reach out to your teachers if you need additional clarification about this. This is the formula. And again, we are traveling this thing together, and we want to make sure that the grades that are earned are represented appropriately, accurately. And this is the weighting that we feel is most appropriate given the circumstances. In terms of GPAs, we usually calculate final grade GPAs for juniors in June once all the final grades are in. This year obviously will be different without final exams. The GPA that's calculated in June, both weighted and unweighted, is usually the one that's sent out to colleges in the fall when students apply November 1st, November 15th, or any of the December or January deadlines. And it's important to remember that the GPA is a combination of final grades from 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. Your report card is a temporary snapshot in time. The final grade is all that is on the transcript. So given the chaos of this school year, at the end of the day, there will be only one grade that's on your transcript, and that will be your final one. After June of 2020, GPAs will not be updated again until the end of semester 1, which is February of 2021. And the biggest recommendation that we can have is that term 4, you put forth your best effort. We have just over a month left. And in order to pass for term 4, students need to complete 7 out of 10 assignments. And hopefully you are communicating as often as you can, depending on the class, with the teachers to make sure that you are getting the most out of your term 4. It is a challenging, different approach. We're entering week 8. Again, that effort and that communication and that outreach is the best recommendation that we can give to you. Things to keep in mind. For juniors specifically, this college admissions cycle in the fall of 2020 is not unique to Medfield or Massachusetts. It's not going to discriminate between public and private schools. Everybody is in this together, and everyone is trying to get creative to best represent the students as they apply to colleges and universities. Some recommendations that we have in years past, we've always recommended reach schools, fit schools, safety schools. Sometimes we've talked about financially safe schools. This year, students and families may want to consider at least one test optional school. Depending on your opportunity to take standardized tests, depending on what your timeline is, you may want to look at one of those schools on fairtest.org and apply to a school that's test optional. Another piece of advice: please trust the trend lines, not the headlines, and stay accurately informed with trusted sources. A lot has not been finalized about a lot of things out there. So we need to make sure that we are listening to the trusted sources. Again, we get emails from colleges every day when they've made decisions, or if they haven't made a decision and they're in conversation about what requirements and recommendations might be. And lastly, you may want to consider shifting your timeline to apply to schools this fall. Traditionally, between 70 and 80% of midfield seniors will apply early action or early decision with November 1st or 15th deadlines. This may be the year where you want to consider a regular decision deadline that's in January or even February as more information becomes available and you can make more informed decisions. And again, these are recommendations, and as counselors, we're happy to discuss this with students and families. And additional things to keep in mind: please continue to ask questions. Many of you have outreached to us about grades, about letters of recommendation, about Naviance, and about Common App. That dialogue can continue, and we hope that it does. And we hope that you can continue to control the things that you can control to put yourselves in a position that you feel good entering the summer and next fall for your senior year. And do realize that things are changing daily. I've included a passage here from Boston University that came out last week. BU was responding to the fact that people were reporting that students weren't going to be on campus in Boston in August and September. And BU's goal is actually the opposite. They at this point want to have in-person programs in late August and September. And that is in Boston at a major university. So that's a good thing. And that may change, but that's again, a trusted source. This is the information that's being provided by BU. And I think that's what we have to listen to. It's hard with the news cycle and the constant updates that are happening as this evolves, but trust the schools themselves as they begin and continue to communicate what their changes are going to be. And final thoughts: I think it's important that we combat the unknowns with communication and with patience. The Dean of Admissions at WPI wrote a great article that we will include, I think, in this week's guidance news and updates. And the last thing he said was, we will figure it out together. And I think that is an important piece of information to keep in mind, is that with good communication, with patience, doing your homework and research and making outreach, whether it's to a college or university, to your teachers, to your counselors, to your parents, that's what's going to allow us to get through this thing together. And that is definitely the truth. We wish you the best. Next week will be our final session in our future planning updates. And as I said in the beginning, don't hesitate to reach out. If something doesn't seem right or doesn't make sense to you, we're happy to elaborate and give you a little bit more explanation. And stay safe. Take care.